Welcome to the POSTCAST. Thanks for joining me. I'm David Locke along with Ron Boone. And the Jazz win tonight over Sacramento, 98-91 in overtime. They moved to 27-22 on the year. I thought I learned a few things tonight, Ron, about the Jazz. The first thing I think I learned is how limited they really are. That without Mo Williams, without Gordon Hayward, without Earl Watson, without 3 of your 4 primary ball handlers, they're going to have a tough time. They turned the ball over 21 times in the regular, 22 times in the regulation, 22 for the whole game. That's the season high. The offense could not get going. They looked out of rhythm. They looked sluggish. They looked lifeless. I think they really may have been just very limited in what they're capable to do. That's the first thing I learned tonight. The second thing I learned tonight is how valuable a winning culture is.
Yeah.
Because that's why the Jazz won this game tonight. Because they expect to win basketball games. Because this franchise has demanded them to play every game to win and to win basketball games. And Sacramento, I'm not sure, plays that way, nor did they have any idea what to do late in the game.
Well, first of all, for the Jazz, this team, the strength of this team, and you touched on something that's very important, is the fact ball handlers, guys that are not afraid to challenge the defense. Meaning, you can see that Burks is being very, very careful. You can tell that Jamal Tinsley didn't want to whatever injury he's nursing there. He was playing cautiously, but the bench has been the strength of this basketball team all season long. But what does that mean? That means that Tinsley's coming off the bench. That means Hayward's coming off the bench along with Jamari Carroll. Those guys. That's been the strength of this team all season long. Because that second quarter has just been tremendous because they come out and give them a tremendous amount of energy. But this is something you're going to have to fight through and continue with practice time to get better and better and better. Watch a lot of film because there's a lot of mistakes, I think, that are being made out there by even our veteran players that need to be corrected.
The other thing that was interesting tonight is that, I joked the other night that Al Jefferson was our bails bondsman because he bails us out late in games every night. Tonight, the team bailed Al Jefferson out.
Yeah.
Al Jefferson, I think, hit 1 or 2 free throws. He ended up finishing the second half with 5 points. That is not Al Jefferson finishing the second half with 5. He couldn't get anything going late. In the overtime, he was 1 of 2, and I don't remember the one. Actually, it was a hard drive scoop layup. I'm being sarcastic, but he really had a hard time. And the fact that Millsap made a shot and a few other guys made enough plays along the way to cover up for Al's inability to do all of the work, I thought is important for this team.
Well, fighting and realizing what you need to do to win basketball games is important, for this team. But they don't have a ton of athletes to the point where you can just give them the basketball and they'll bail them out. They'll make a play. They rely on teamwork. Tonight, Al just couldn't get it done. Burks made a huge play, jump shot there from the left side there, I think, to give the Jazz a 3-point lead at that time in overtime. And I thought that may have been the biggest play of the overtime because just to keep the Kings fighting uphill, rather than getting ahead and forcing the Jazz to fight uphill.
Alec Burks, you mentioned him. Let's talk about it. 14 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. The box score does not tell the story of his night in any way, shape, or form. His opening stretch in the first half was really, in my opinion, as poor as we've seen him play the point guard position, other than maybe in Miami where he really got overwhelmed for a brief moment. But this wasn't that he got overwhelmed by athletes. He just couldn't get him into the offense. He turned the ball over a few times. He just didn't have it going at all. And when he came off the bench, he was upset, and Ty grabbed him and said, "Wait a sec," and basically, "Hey, I'm going to need you again tonight. You're not done." And you sit here, and then he sat down next to Randy Foye, and Sidney Lowe took a long time with the two of them. You're going to be back out on the floor together. You're probably going to have to finish this game. Here's what you got to do. And we saw some fight and toughness out of Alec Burks that we simply have not seen before out of him. It was wonderful.
I thought he played a wonderful basketball game, especially in the second half. Now, he had 4 turnovers, but that you have to overlook. Why? Because he's playing out of position. He's playing a new position, and he's for the most part, he's learning on the fly on how to get the job done. Now, the big thing here is that when we get the chance to see him, if he's improving or not, it's when he can face the defense and not worry about them taking the basketball away from him, not worried about him having to try to drive around a little small point guard or something like that, and there we'll start to respect his ability to play that position. some guys come up the floor, some point guards, when they're not sure of themselves, they're going to keep their body between the man and the defense. And that's what we're seeing right now. When he starts to get that confidence and he's not worried about them stripping the basketball from him, he's going to be able to face the defense and make plays from that point.
He did make a huge difference in this game, though. He hit some jump shots, and you got to have him on the floor because Jamal's just not taking them. Yeah. And so Alex got to be on the floor. He's the only way you're going to win games right now with him getting those minutes, and he was able to do it. The other one I want to make, there's a few guys I think deserve mention, but I want to make a moment of a key moment of the game. We've had this weird, divergent roster for 2.5 years of young guys and veterans, and tonight was a night where, frankly, the starters were just awful for the first half of the game.
They looked slow and just interested.
And I had said to Ron, I'll admit this, boy, if there's ever a night where Ty just doesn't go back to him, this is it. And with 5 minutes left, the Jazz are down 77-71. And Ty goes back to Jefferson and Millsap, and I wrote it down in my notes, like, well, let's see what happens. Give those guys some props. They were miserable to start the game. They had no juice. But these guys are veterans. They know how to win. They know how to execute. They know how to play. And they closed it. It wasn't, the final play of regulation wasn't pretty, but if you put the whole 10 minutes together, they outscored them 27-14 to close it. That's pretty big butt whooping over a 10-minute time period.
Yeah, if you want to look at the whole quarter, the fourth quarter, which was, they outscored them 22-18 and then 14-7 there in overtime. But as you mentioned, that last was it 71-70? You said with they
77-71 when they came back in.
That was that was big, and this is the reason that most coaches, not just Ty, they have starting lineups that they trust. They usually go back to that starting lineup to make plays.
Randy Foye.
He's on a roll. He's hot, and it's playing with as much confidence as ever. The Jazz got him because he's a three-point shooter, and he's stretching the defense. I mean, he is playing tremendous basketball. Tonight, what was he tonight? 6 for 12. He's 3 for 5 from the three-point line. He's shooting 43% going into tonight's game from the three-point line, and he's getting to the point now where this is going to be his best year. I thought his best year before was when he was with Minnesota. Is that right?
That year in Washington.
Clippers.
Might have been that year in Washington where they turned bad team, but he played the point. I thought tonight is the first time we've seen him play the point a lot or have the ball in his hands a lot and still keep his offense going. Yeah. Usually you have to make a choice with him. If you want him to make his shots, you're playing him off the ball.
Right.
If he's playing on the ball, you're losing that aspect of him. Tonight's the first time I think we saw both.
Yeah, and maybe his confidence level is getting up there as well, to the point where you can trust him with the ball in his hands. I mean, this is a fickle game. Guys, confidence and trust and it goes and comes in this league. 82 games, and it's just tough to do.
Well, if the Jazz play the Kings again on Saturday, maybe they'll be fortunate enough to have DeMarcus Cousins stay in the game for its entire way, because that would make things a lot easier for the Jazz. The final score tonight in overtime, the Utah Jazz defeat the Sacramento Kings. On behalf of Ron, I'm David. 98-91 the final. Thanks for tuning into the Postcast.